Hello, everyone. Good morning, maybe in your time zone. For Billy and I, it's good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining today's Red Sift webinar. As the title of today's webinar suggests, Billy and I are going to be talking to you about the fact that attackers don't stop at DMARC, and we're going to be encouraging you to do the same. So why you should go beyond DMARC. Just before we jump in, a quick round of introductions so you know who's talking to you today. My name is Francesca Röngerfield, and I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Red Sift, and I'm delighted to be joined by my esteemed colleague, Billy. Billy, do you just want to give a quick introduction?
Thank you, Fran. It's great. I think this is our first webinar together, Fran. So I'm really, really excited actually to do this with you. So thank you. Thanks for setting it all up. And yeah, my name's Billy McDermott. I'm the VP of Customer Engineering here at Red Sift. That means I help people like you before you buy from us, but importantly, after you buy from us as well. Got a wonderful team of pre and post sales engineers here, and fantastic to be talking to you about your Beyond DMARC journey today.
Awesome. Okay, so quick agenda. We're going to be starting off by talking about what the problem is, and the clue is it's in 1A, it's email. We'll then be touching on things like DMARC, a threat vector that you might be familiar with called subdomaining, and then we'll get into the really meaty part of the presentation, which is going to be on lookalike domains. And of course, we're going to talk to you about our product, Red Sift Brand Trust, which is the application on the Red Sift platform that spots and stops lookalike domain threats before they can damage your brand. Billy will be doing a demo for us, and then of course we will have some time for Q&As. So before we get started, a little bit about Red Sift. Who is Red Sift? Well, we are a global cybersecurity company, and we exist to create a fundamentally safer internet. We do this with our software, which helps teams with their proactive security across email, web, and PKI. So we have 4 applications on our unified platform, a DMARC management app, lookalike domain defense, an ASM application, and certificate discovery, monitoring, and management. We have over 100 employees across the globe. As you can see on the map on the right-hand side, we are distributed everywhere, and we help over 1,200 of our customers with their security challenges, including big name brands like TUI, Wise, Capgemini, and Domino's.
This is the reminder as well. We need to add Glasgow onto that map. We've got London,
Sorry,
we've
Billy.
got but we've still not pinpointed Glasgow on
I'm sorry. The next one, we'll see you there.
it.
Okay, so what is the problem? Just a quick one. We are actually really happy to see a large number of existing Red Sift customers join today's webinar. So you'll be familiar with what we're going to cover on this slide. And obviously, if you're in IT security, you won't be surprised that we're going to tell you email remains the top attack vector for cybercriminals. And one of the most dangerous tactics they use is actually exact domain impersonation. This is where attackers exploit unprotected company domains to send emails that look completely legitimate. So if you look at this example, you can see no strange characters, no red flags. And this is because the attacker has been able to impersonate the exact company domain. Data shows that about 74% of spoofing attacks that evaded secure email gateways were these exact domain attacks. So this really underscores how critical it is to secure your domains, because these emails are deceptively convincing and highly effective at bypassing both technology and human detection. So how can organizations do this? I've kind of already hinted at it by implementing DMARC. This is really the only effective way to stop exact domain impersonation. So if that slide hadn't driven it home, I'm sure some statistics will do the trick. The first box shows us what the FBI Internet Crime Report reported for 2024, $2.7 billion in losses due to BEC. And if any of you read this on an annual basis, you see that this figure goes up year on year. It's really staggering. This number just never ceases to increase. In the second box, you'll see that actually there has been a significant surge in phishing attacks over the last 6 months, namely a 17% jump in global email volume to do with phishing. So this spike highlights how attackers continue to adapt their tactics. Many, of course, are now using AI to generate their messages. We see novel techniques like QR code phishing or subdomaining, which is something that Billy will touch on shortly. And they do this to reach more targets and bypass traditional security measures. And on the right-hand side, we have a positive stat. One of the clearest benefits of DMARC is its ability to stop unauthenticated email at scale. So organizations with DMARC at enforcement see on average a 65% reduction in the delivery of unauthenticated mail. Of course, meaning fewer spoofed emails reach inboxes and fewer opportunities for attackers to impersonate your brand. Now, with major mailbox providers like Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft now requiring DMARC for bulk senders, it's no longer just about protection, it's also about staying deliverable. And I'm just going to spend a few more minutes talking about what we like to refer to internally as the Yahoo-soft bulk sender changes. So since the introduction of the bulk sender requirements from this trio, we have seen a significant uptick in DMARC adoption. In just 18 months, the number of domains with DMARC records jumped from around 8 million to over 13 million. So that's a big leap, and of course, it shows us that mandates do move the needle. But where we need to pause and ask a deeper question is how many of these domains are actually enforcing protection? Because while reporting adoption is high, enforcement is still extremely low, with less than 5% of the world's domains using DMARC at enforcement levels like quarantine or reject. And one of the reasons for this is that for now, Yahoo-soft have mandated only a policy of P equals none, but we hope to see these requirements become stricter. It's not all doom and gloom, though. We did have a quick look at the DMARC status for the registrants for this webinar, and we were very happy to see 55% of you are in reject, 20% of you are at quarantine, so that's a combined 75% at really good policies for DMARC, and there's 25% of you with a policy of none. So there's work to be done, but you can contact us at any time. We have a 2-week free trial for our DMARC product. So if you need help progressing in your DMARC journey, we are here for you. And now Billy is going to talk to us about subdomaining.
Thanks, Fran. And another point just to remember about those mandates. This is the trend of mandates is going to continue. So Google, Yahoo, Microsoft finally joined the party. Cloudflare, Fastmail have recently announced very similar mandates as well. Our friends at Apple already do it. They just don't talk about it that much, but they already do it. So all the major players are mandating this. So if you're not doing DMARC properly right now, which is the first stage that Fran has spoken about, then it's really important to do so. But DMARC itself, because of the adoption rate of big businesses, the bad guys, the bad actors have actually found ways to get around DMARC and ways that they're able to take over the critical services, the email services and the web services that you're running every day. They're finding different ways of doing it. And low-hanging fruit, because they don't have to get past firewalls and they don't have to get into your DNS, so to speak, externally. A way of doing it is through subdomain and domain takeovers. And this is where the bad actors take advantage of bad DNS hygiene. Where, as technologists, we have all, I know I certainly have over the past 15 or so years, we create technology, we create services, and then we then forget about them. And that problem is just getting bigger and bigger because of the cloud providers. If you're using any of the cloud providers, the chances are you have probably set up a service and then forgotten about that service. The challenge being, if you forget about that service and then forget to take it out of your DNS, and whether that's a service that's let's say it's an S3 bucket, or whether it's a domain name that's been registered with through a registrar, if you forget about it, then someone might be able to take that over with a domain name. They may be able to re-register the domain name with an S3 bucket. They might be able to go and claim the name of that S3 bucket for themselves. But those still exist in your DNS record. They haven't been taken out of your DNS. So if the bad guy registers that domain, or if the bad guy takes over that S3 bucket, you've got a compromised asset in your DNS. Once the bad guy's got that compromised asset, depending on what type it is, they can either send out email as you, or they can create websites and take over websites as you. Okay, so this is a really common and ongoing problem. We see attacks like this happening every single day. It's a major concern. There's some recent activity in particular around S3 buckets where they've been just shown to be really easy to take over. So DMARC is part of your tool set to defend yourself against the bad guys. But the reality is, folks, that DNS is an old protocol. DNS has weaknesses, and it's low-hanging fruit for the bad actors. So you can't just stop at DMARC. It's great that you are doing DMARC, and we're delighted that if you are a customer with us, that you are one of the few that are taking it seriously. But you have to think about more than DMARC, and that is where we do come in. We, in our on DMARC solution, not only do we give you the best in class capability to get to reject on DMARC, but also we have available defenses against those subdomain and domain takeovers that I've just spoken about. Okay, that's called DNS Guardian, and you can add that into your on DMARC subscription. So if you're an existing customer and you don't have that already, do get in touch with your customer success team, either your CSM or your CSE, and they'll be delighted to talk to you about that.
Okay. Thank you, Billy. So we heard it from Billy just now on the subdomaining story, right? So when bad actors can't get in one way, they pivot to try other tactics. And lookalike domains are one such tactic. And really what we're seeing is a surge in fraudulent activity using domains that look legitimate at first glance, but are actually completely outside of your control. So we've got three examples on this slide. The first one is the exact brand match in the host name. So redsift-login.io. And this type is deceptively clean because it includes the full brand name in the domain itself, making it perfect for phishing pages like fake login portals. And because it looks legitimate and it might use SSL, most users won't question it. The second example, we have the brand name in the subdomain. This plays on a common trust pattern. The user sees redsift.com at the beginning and assumes it's real, but the actual registered domain is verify.info. So this is a powerful trick. The brand name is put up front, but we're actually routing traffic to what's probably a malicious server. And then finally, these are classic typo squats. You've got one letter off, a simple D you swapped for a B here, and it passes the eye test, especially when used in password reset flows. It's easy for users to fall for. And of course, the challenge here is that DMARC doesn't stop any of these. These domains aren't sending from your infrastructure. They are actually pretending to be you from the outside, and without monitoring for them, they will fly under the radar. And there's nothing like a stat slide. I love a stat slide to drive home the issue. How widespread is it? Very much so. These aren't niche. Lookalike domain attacks are mainstream. A staggering 59% of phishing attacks use lookalike domains. And what this tells us is attackers know they are effective and they are deliberately choosing these tactics because they work. We've seen a 220% year-over-year rise in brand impersonation phishing, and critically, 42% of lookalike domains have active email services. This means they're not just sitting parked on the internet, they are being actively used to send malicious mail. Now let's talk about the real-world challenge of defending against lookalike domains. It's not that you and your organizations don't want to solve this problem. It's really that the problem itself is incredibly complex and resource intensive. And here's why. First of all, you are dealing with millions of potential lookalike variations. Attackers can register endless combinations, typos, subdomains, homoglyphs, brand mashups. It's literally impossible to defensively register or monitor all of them using manual methods. When you try to review them, you're flooded with false positives. Most of these domains aren't malicious, but figuring out which ones are is a massive drain on time and expertise. And without automation, your team will end up drowning in noise. When review does happen, it's a single point in time snapshot, and domains change. A domain that's dormant today might become weaponized next week. If you are not continuously monitoring those threat signals and risk levels, you will miss that escalation. And finally, even if you identify a suspicious domain, taking action is slow. It usually requires input from legal, brand, IT, security, many departments, which makes it difficult to act decisively without significant coordination and effort. So the result is infinite variations, huge volumes of noise, no scalable way to keep up. And that's why tackling this threat requires automation, intelligence, and a shift away from reactive manual review. And so, Billy, do you want to talk to us a little bit about Red Sift Brand Trust?
Absolutely. And just one point to start to build on there is the scale of
Mhm.
of this issue, right? And think about it. One of the easiest things for anyone in the world to do, Fran, is to go and register a domain.
Yep.
It's simple. It's the commoditized nature of it means that for anyone that wants to impersonate your brand, they can do it cheaply. They can use registrars that are difficult to get in touch with. Okay. They can do it anonymously. It's really easy to do. So, talking about low hanging fruit, easy things for people to do, this is one of them. It's also really easy because of the open nature of protocols. It's relatively easy for people to create a domain name, create a website, and actually use DMARC
Mhm.
to actually send authenticated mail from the domain name that they've set up. So again, this is we're talking about DNS Guardian bypassing DMARC. Actually, lookalike domains benefit from DMARC because it's so accessible and fairly simple for people to set up on an individual level on a per domain basis, not at scale, but a per domain basis. So this is about accessibility. This is about low hanging fruit. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can defend yourself against these easily accessible attack vendors that bad actors are actually taking advantage of. And if we talk now about, before we go into the fun stuff, which is the demo, which I'm really excited about, and I'm a little bit nervous about, Fran, because it's the first time there's one little bit that I've not shown before, so I'm like,
You've got this.
I'll be fine. But let's talk about actually how brand trust does work for a moment, because when we look at the way that people talk about digital risk protection. So, how do you, as a corporate entity, how do you protect yourself against the bad actors? They come at it often from a different angle from us. Sometimes it's about defensive registrations. Okay, so I run an organization called Billy's Cat Food. Maybe one of the DRP providers will encourage you to set up every variation of billiescatfood.com, okay? But think about that, there's in billiescatfood.com, there's tons of character swap variations there. There's tons of homoglyphs, there's tons of CCTLDs as well as GTLDs there. Really, it's infinite, okay, the number of domain names that you can actually set up. So whilst it is a valid approach, it's really limited by, can you come up with every potential variation of your brand name, and also time and also cost, okay, because it gets quite expensive, and these defensive techniques get very, very expensive at times. Other vendors will look at it from a data perspective, which we do as well, and I'll talk about that in a second. But they either do one of two things. They either don't give you enough data, okay, so they're not looking through DNS, they're not doing internet scale monitoring, okay, so they can't find all the potential variations of your brand name, okay, so that's one approach that they're doing. Or they give you too much data, and what they say is, well, you can look through it yourself. You have got analysts, you've got people on your team who could sit and look through all these different variations. Now, I know that I don't have infinite resource in my team, so if I was asking my team to do that, it would be a struggle. I also know that as capable and as wonderful as my team are, they wouldn't be able to come up with every single variation and everything that they're going to check for. Okay, so those are two big weaknesses in terms of the additional the solutions that are out there to solve this lookalike domain problem that Franz described. We do this on a scale that's unmatched by anyone else, both in terms of how much data we interrogate and ingest every single day, but also the level of automation that we carry out, so that your team can be working on stuff that really they have to spend time on, i.e. can't be done in an automated way. Or if you are really strapped for budget and you don't have the resourcing available, you can automate the process of finding these risks. So let's talk about the 4 steps briefly, but I will talk more about it in the demo. Okay, Brand Trust works in 4 different modules: our detection module, our threat module, our automation module, and our enforcement module. Okay, detection does what it says on the tin. Okay, we find every single variation of your brand name from an internet scale data set. Okay, this is real big data in action. It's up to 150 million new and updated DNS names per day. That's how much data we are ingesting and then looking through to find lookalikes that match your domain name. And that's done, or match your brand name. And that's done continuously, and it's done automatically. Simply put, we've got access to data that you do not have access to otherwise, and that our competitors don't have access to otherwise as well. But the next part is then we then search through all that data using multiple different methods that I'll talk about in a moment to find all those different variations that could be matching your brand name. Simply put, a human couldn't do it. Even if you had an infinite number of people, humans cannot find every potential domain and subdomain that is impersonating your brand. But actually, even if you do find all of those variations, honestly, the vast majority of them are not going to be a threat today and might not actually be a threat. So you're wasting time looking at domain names that will never actually impersonate your brand fully or try and defraud your customers. And that's where the second module comes in, threat models. We look at every single lookalike, okay, that we find on your behalf, and we use multiple different methods to tell you whether that's a risk today or not. We do some of the basic stuff, like, does it have DNS configured? Does it have web services configured? Does it have web email services configured? But we also use advanced computer vision to check, is your logo on the web page? Is your leadership team, are there photographs on the web page? Okay. Are there emails being sent out from that lookalike domain name? And we pull all that information, those multiple checks that are carried out every single day, multiple times a day. We pull all that together to score the lookalike and tell you how risky it's likely to be. Then we automate the process of actually telling you which ones are high risk and which aren't. And we further automated it by introducing our first AI agent into the Red Sift set of tools, which is the bit I'm a bit nervous about showing, but it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. And then that automation, the benefit at the end is you can then enforce against the domain names that are a real risk to your business. You're not going to waste time trying to take down domain names that aren't impersonating your brand, wasting time trying to take down domain names that don't have any web services or email services associated with them, and don't have your logo on them, because it's actually really hard to take down a website. You need tons of evidence to do it. So if you do decide to enforce through this process, we've gathered all this evidence, you have it all in one place, and then you're able to do a takedown that, you know what, is probably going to be successful. And if you choose to do that, you can do that from within Brand Trust as well. We've got a fully integrated takedown workflow with the support of our team of engineers to help you out with that. Now, as I mentioned, for the first time, we've introduced now an AI agent into the Red Sift toolset. This is what I'm really excited about, because we know that you lack the capacity and lack the dedicated resource to even review the high risk threats that I'm talking about. And we know that because we've got hundreds of customers that are telling us that the threat is so large that the number of high risk domains that have been discovered can be really overwhelming and really difficult for humans to review. Think about it, a high risk lookalike could take 3-4 minutes at best to actually review. And that's with the support of Brand Trust. With Brand Trust cutting it down to those that are just a real risk. Brand Trust does an amazing job of that. For one of our customers, for example, the automatic classification already cuts down between 2,000 and 4,000 lookalikes a day, so that the high risk lookalikes are a much smaller number, but they still have to look at 300 high risk lookalikes every single day. That still needs resourcing. That's resourcing that can be doing other things that even at a junior level can cost tens of thousands of pounds or tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. So within a matter of days, Brand Trust will add our first AI agent that will review that 20%. So in the case of the customer that I'm talking about, those 300, the AI agent will review those 300, and using its intelligence, it will deliver analyst precision with minimal overhead. Imagine you have a top tier analyst embedded into Brand Trust, embedded into your security team, that's always on and is infinitely scalable. There's multiple different AI models that are involved in this process. We've got an enhanced domain detection engine, okay, that incorporates additional domain similarity and contextual understanding. For example, let's say you had the term AA. Depending on where you are in the world, that can mean different things. It could mean American Airlines. It could mean the Automobile Association in the UK. It could mean the Automobile Association in New Zealand. Traditional lookalike engines can't understand the difference between AA.com, the AA.com, and AA.co.NZ, despite them being different organizations. Okay, our new model will be able to tell the difference and know that those three organizations are completely different based on the domain name. But additionally, what part of the agent is also a model that looks at business intelligence and relationship mapping. It enables it to understand the relationships between product, services, and the domain name. It helps identify nuances that a traditional lookalike engine would miss. So let's take that a step further. Perhaps, maybe, it would think that the AA.com and AA.co.nz were the same organization. But the agent will actually look at the web pages and will look at the content of the web pages and will be able to understand that they are two different organizations by looking at the content on the page. Additionally, our customers do love our logo detection. They love the fact that we can tell them through our alerting when their brand logo appears on a lookalike that we've found. But with the AI agent, we've got an improved logo detection and page analyst service. Okay, it will be able to use the existing logo and facial recognition process that we have, but it will also be able to re-render websites to understand the visual context. Okay, so for example, it will know where a logo is placed on a page. It will be able to differentiate between a page that belongs to an organization, let's say it was redsift.com, and know that, yep, that's the organization's page. But if it finds a potential lookalike that has our logo on it, but our logo's on it because we've given a case study to one of the vendors that we use, it will be able to look at that page and know, yep, that doesn't belong to Red Sift. It'll be able to look at it and say, yep, that's a case study. And it will not flag it as a high-risk lookalike as a result. And in the final part of the agent, we've got a model that will actually bring all that evidence together, and it will write a report for you, and it will summarize all the gathered information, forming a final output, giving you insight that you can then take during that enforcement section that I was talking about. You're able to use all the evidence that's been gathered by the agent in your takedown process. Okay. So this is why I'm excited. I hope everyone can tell that I'm excited about it, because this really is taking the work that we can do for our customers to the next level. Now, before I go on to the demo, let's talk about just an example about how it will help you to also avoid false positives. Let's talk about a contextual example. Let's look at, say, redsoft.com. That would definitely appear suspicious to our team who are monitoring these. Let's say that it does use Red Sift's logo, and it's hosting a live website, traditional systems may flag that as malicious. But the AI agent would use those new models that I'm talking about to recognize that the logo is in the social proof section of the website. It will then cross-check whether we have a business relationship with Red Sift. Be a bit weird if we worked with a company called Red Sift, but there we go. And it will be able to tell that Red Sift is a legitimate partner of Red Sift. Okay. It will classify the domain name as safe, avoiding your analyst wasting time double checking. Think about that. The analyst would have to look at it. The analyst would see the logo. Yeah, they may understand that it's a case study, or they may have to go and do further work on it. Okay. This is saving, that might only be 3 to 5 minutes of an analyst's time. To think about that for even 300 high-risk lookalikes a day. And some of our customers have a lot more than that. So let's move over to a demo.
Okay.
And I'm going to do this in 2 parts, Fran. Okay. So I am going to talk, first of all, about what Brand Trust does at the moment. And then I'm going to talk about how we're going to improve that within a matter of days with the AI agent. Okay. As I mentioned, Brand Trust uses that sophisticated detection, threat modeling, automation, and enforcement methodology to identify high-risk domain names that truly threaten your business. As you can see here, we've currently got 12 high-risk lookalikes. We've scored them highly because they're using our logos, they're using our executive faces. They've got our keywords mentioned, okay, on them. So they've been deemed to be a threat to us. How do we do that? How do we get to the point where, as an analyst, I know that redsift.versal.app is a threat with a risk score of 95? Let's talk about the data for a second. I mentioned at the beginning that we monitor up to 150 million new and updated domain names every single day. And you can see that here. It's a bit low today, actually. Don't know why. 40.5. Yesterday, it was about 70 odd million when I checked it. So it does vary depending on the time of year. Actually, I'm going to check at Christmas what that number looks like. That'd be quite a fun stat to see how busy the bad actors are over Christmas. Okay. So this is Brand Trust Internet Scale Visibility. New hosts observed globally in the past 24 hours. So every single day, you, through Brand Trust, will gain access to that data. And the reason why we're so different is we've got a combination of both our own proprietary methods of doing this, okay, but also we've got access to multiple fire hoses. Other vendors just have fire hoses. Okay, that's all they have. They're just buying the data. Yeah, we've got fire hoses as well, but we have our own proprietary discovery methods through tools like our ASM solution, okay, that mean we find more names than other vendors do. And that means that Brand Trust will scan for you up to 1,700 domains every single second, matching them to your brand name. Brand Trust will look for the threats that Fran mentioned: homoglyphs, omissions, duplications, transpositions, adjacent QWERTY variations, bit squatting, and even more. Say that when you've had a couple of beers. Okay. But with such vast amounts of data, guys, there's a lot of noise. I mentioned that earlier. You can't check all of these, okay? You can't even check every potential lookalike, okay, that's potentially a threat. So Brand Trust will ensure that it only tells you about the domains that pose a genuine risk. And how do we do that? Well, we do that through our threat models. I'm going to go back to the high-risk lookalikes that I spoke about. Every identified lookalike domain that we actually find undergoes an extensive inspection. We analyze passive signals like DNS setup, name servers, registration details, alongside the more active signals like web, email hosting. And also Brand Trust will check domain names and IP addresses against threat intelligence feeds, okay, to see if any suspicious activity is known from those sources. But here's where it gets really powerful. Okay, if a domain that we've discovered has got web or email services, then Brand Trust examines how exactly it's being used. Is your logo visible? Are your leadership team's photos actually detected on the page? And I'll come back to that example in a second. Is the domain sending out spam emails with your branding? We've got access to data feeds of spam emails, honeypots and spam traps, which mean we can tell you if emails are actually being sent out from these domain names. We'll tell you if your leadership team, if their photographs have been used on the website. But we'll also do that logo detection. We'll also do the executive impersonation detection on the emails that we detect as well, everyone, not just the website. All of these critical data points are put together to form the risk score that I've spoken about. Okay, it's updated multiple different times a day. Even if a domain name was previously a low risk because it had a low score, if truthsift.biz all of a sudden had our CEO's details on it, Raoul Powers, then the score would go up and you would receive a notification about that as well. So it's not a one-off check, it's continuous monitoring to form that score, notifying you about genuine threats. But simultaneously, we're compiling through this type of investigation, we're compiling all the forensic evidence that you actually need for enforcement. I speak to customers every day who have told me that their takedowns have been unsuccessful. Yes, it may be a genuine lookalike, it may be impersonating their brand name. But the reason why the lookalike is unsuccessful is because there's no evidence. Either they've not gathered it properly, okay, or there was no evidence in the first place. It's just a domain name. That just simply isn't enough in most cases to be able to take down a domain name. So with Brand Trust, as well as the evidence gathering, we will package all that evidence up as part of our enforcement process, where takedown actions are fully integrated, initiating and completing the process of requesting a takedown is seamless and built into the Brand Trust application. Okay. That threat modeling process streamlines enforcement, it increases the chances of success, and it reduces the time required for an additional to actually take down a domain. And remember, this is difficult to do on your own. Okay, if you need additional support, then our team of engineers will be on hand to actually help you. Now, I mentioned earlier, you're probably thinking, well, Billy, you said this stuff all takes time to do. And you know what? It does. Right now, it all takes time to do, and there's not an awful lot we can do about that. Oh, but wait, there is actually, because we've got the agent. So I hope Matt's on, because I keep saying within a couple of days this is going to be ready. So I don't want to put any pressure on my good friend and colleague, Matt. Okay, but today I am really excited to give you a preview of our AI agent. The AI agent is going to take away much of the time that's required to review all of these high risk lookalikes that Brand Trust has discovered. It's going to speed this process up so much more for you. It's going to take away the dependency that you have an additional resource, meaning your resource can be freed up to do activities that do require manual intervention. Or if you don't have that resource at the moment, it means you can increase the capacity of your team. Brand Trust's intelligent security agent will automatically analyze each lookalike domain, not just the high risk lookalike domains, but every single lookalike domain, okay, that's been discovered, identify the actionable risks, and will produce clear, concise evidence and reports to tell you why it's a risk that you can actually use during your enforcement process. So instead of me having to look through all of these different unclassified reports, lookalikes, instead of me having to go to high risk and look at all the high risk lookalikes, I can just simply click on 13 takedown candidates. The AI agent has done the job for me. It's taken that 300 and cut it down to 13, to use the example from the customer earlier. Well, how does it do that? Well, you can see that there's 7,971 domains. Manually reviewing them all would take days. The Brand Trust AI agent has cut those down to just 13 critical lookalike domains. These have been classified automatically as takedown candidates as soon as they have been discovered. And how does the agent actually do that? Okay, how does it get down to that 13? How does it get you into a situation where you don't have to waste time looking through those anymore and you can just focus on the genuine threats? Well, let's look at the evidence. Let's look at the example of yourbusiness.security.com. Okay. Instantly, the agent's recommendation is here. It's telling me straight away why it's recommended that this name is taken down. It's because the domain is impersonating your brand name. It's using your logo, which we can see on the right-hand side with the screenshot of the web page. And it's in a manner that's likely to mislead users into believing. So it's all those models I was talking about, the improved domain detection model, the business relationship and context mapping, and the improved logo and facial detection models, as well as the model that writes the report for you as well. Now, you may want to trust the agent. I'm not going to get into a philosophical argument about whether you should trust an AI agent and Brand Trust or not today. If you trust the agent, then you could simply mark for takedown and that will begin the enforcement process. But if you'd like to understand a little bit more, you can click on Show Thinking. Okay. And the deeper analysis, the deeper context is shown. It breaks it down into the three different models that I've spoken about: domain, content, and risk. The domain contains your exact brand name. The content uses the logo. And the risk, there is no business relationship with your company. So we're explaining through the agent exactly why these decisions are being made. It's completely transparent. So once you're happy and satisfied with that evidence, you can simply mark for takedown. Great work. Guess what you've just done? You've just protected your organization, your customers, your stakeholders, your shareholders from significant financial and reputational damage. And that didn't take a lot of time, did it? In less than a minute, you've been able to avoid all of the fallout that comes from brand impersonation and fraudulent use of your brand names. Exciting.
A game changer for so many teams.
It's an absolute game changer. So I can see we've got lots of questions and comments coming in. So
yeah, we have one from Enrique. This is a must. So yeah, absolutely. This is why I've been busy developing this for a number of months now. Billy, do you want me to just jump back into the last few slides I have?
please.
Thank you so much for the demo.
And I did promise I'd try and grab a cat, and one has just appeared miraculously. So while you're doing that, so we'd be disappointed if one of my cats didn't turn up.
Okay, so fabulous demo from Billy. Thank you so much. The kind of message that we wanted you to take home today was what we're referring to internally as the brand protection trinity. And it kind of covers the steps that we've gone through today, right? So if you think of DMARC as your bread and butter, that is what we are always going to recommend as the foundation for robust email security. And beyond DMARC is enforcing policies like SPF, DKIM, MTA-SDS, and a whole lot more. Once you have DMARC in place, you'll want to layer on DNS configuration monitoring to avoid and stop attacks like subdomaining. And then finally, when we talk about lookalike defense, which is what Billy was showing us in Brand Trust, this is going beyond your owned domains. So yes, that is our brand protection trinity story. We have content on this on our website, in our resource center, and we're actually going to be sending that out as part of our webinar follow-up. One thing to draw your attention to, just as a last thing, is if you have any cyber concerns, you know, whether they range from email security and obviously what we've covered today, lookalike domains, but also if they're to do with PKI, we have this page on our website that you can go to and fill in a form, talk to us about what your concerns are, and one of our team will put together a personalized assessment for you and book some time with you completely free of charge to walk through those issues. And that is all we have time for today. Let's just have a little look in the chat to see if we have any comments.
So there's a question from a couple of people. Clearly, this is alerting that our customers and our potential customers want to integrate into their existing tool set, Fran. So absolutely, through our Event Hub integration within the next couple of weeks, you will be able to consume the intelligence such as those takedown candidates. When they happen, you'll be able to send them into your own workflows. And we have a number of SIEMs that are already supported out of the box: Sentinel, Splunk, and other methods like S3. We've also got custom webhooks, so you can send those alerts to a place of your choice. So we've already got Event Hub up and running for our on DMARC customers. So if you're an on DMARC customer, you've got access to that. And not too far away, within a couple of weeks, it's going to be available for Brand Trust and also the other products that are part of the Red Sift stack.
Let's see, I think we have maybe time for one more. Okay, question answered. That's great. Okay, I think we are good to go, Billy. So thank you, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate you being here. And like I said, you will receive a follow-up with some resources and with this recording on demand. Thank you so much.
Good to see you all. Thanks, Fran. Brilliant.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.